So we are restarting our session, a plenary session of 2021 Summit of IS4SI, with this plenary panel discussion contributed by the 13th International Workshop on Natural Computing, which I called Natural Question about Natural Computing. And in this panel discussion, we will have 4 panelists. We were planning 5 panelists, but unfortunately, Yukio Peggio-Gunji informed me that he has some kind of emergency which does not allow him to participate in the panel discussion. He asked me to convey his apology and greetings to everyone, especially to Andy Adamatsky. And so I will start from reintroduction of some panelists and introduction of other panelists. It's because not everyone, it can happen that not everyone had opportunity to listen to invited lectures. So we had first we had invited lecture from General Juarez Martinez from National Polytechnic Institute of Mexico, and I will not go through all details of his multiple affiliations and his work and interests. I greatly appreciate his lecture. It was very interesting lecture about basically in general about machine learning and related issues within cellular automata. It gave us very nice idea about possibilities to use it in building artificial systems. But artificial systems working based on natural computing. Then we had a lecture from Andrew Adamatsky. This was about, here we had more nature in the sense that Andy was talking about clearly natural systems, organisms in which we can induce basically operations which we associate with computing, and more. It gave us a wonderful overview of what is this front research on these issues which are so fascinating about basically computing, and not only computing, in organisms which normally we wouldn't suspect have any forms of cognition, but which can be easily associated with cognition. And Andy is professor of unconventional computing in the Department of Computer Science, and he is director of the Unconventional Computing Laboratory, University of West England, Bristol, UK. Now I will introduce panelists who did not yet present their work, but they will present their work later in this session of contributed papers. First, I'll talk about Professor Masami Hagiya from Tokyo University.
More formally, University of Tokyo, more formally.
Yeah, more formally, University of Tokyo. In Japan, people are just saying Todai, Tokyo Daigaku, and everybody knows. Here I have to express my regret that Tokyo Daigaku is before recognition of my own university. So typically, Todai is placed on first position and in competition with Kyoto University, Kyodai. And Professor Hagia is from Department of Information Science in Graduate School of Information Science and Technology at the University of Tokyo. And his research interests are focusing on analysis, verification, and synthesis of computational models and specific topics are theory of computing, theory of programs, mathematical logic, programming languages, software. And then we have Kazuhiro Suzuki. Kazuhiro Suzuki is from Nagoya University, also one of top Japanese universities. He is from Graduate School of Informatics, Department of Complex System Science. It is Graduate School of Information Science, School of Informatics, Department of Natural Science Informatics. And so his research interests are multiple, but the focus of his research is in the domain which practically he developed himself, tactiology, sensory communication by tactile sense. So these are our panelists, and maybe I'll explain the idea of this panel discussion. As I said, the title is Natural Question about Natural Computing. The diverse inquiries of natural computing can be understood as a search for dynamic processes involving information that have all or some characteristics of conventional computing, but are different from it in the form and means of implementation, procedural description, intention, outcomes, and so on. The adjective natural reflects the interest in natural processes studied in several different disciplines of science, but it does not exclude the interest in the dynamics of information in natural, cultural, social contexts of human life. Natural computing is an attempt to bridge technological and natural aspects of information processing to transcend the limitations of conventional computing. And the panelists represent diverse directions of research and study within natural computing. So my main question in this panel discussion is the question, for vadis, where are you going? The question is not so much where you are, but what is the direction of your research interest? What are your dreams? What you want to achieve? Of course, this may refer to the question where you are in your research, but I would like to focus on the question about where are you going? What is your dream? What you want to achieve in your research? This includes also like your personal motivation to pursue this part of inquiry. So this is my general question. I will ask panelists to start from presenting their shorter answers to this question, and then I will open floor to questions from the audience. I believe that these questions from the audience may stimulate further discussion. We have this, I was using here this alphabetic order. So maybe I will start from Andy to start this. Where are you going? For what is? Please,
right.
Floor is yours.
I have no particular goals or aspirations. Basically, all my research is curiosity-driven, and I'm just curious to do some things and to check what's going on in the systems, and then do this research. So I don't have any particular goals. I understand that fungi and plants, they're very slow computers. They couldn't compete with silicon computers in future. However, if we understand biological intelligence, we can become more close to nature and uncover something in ourselves and live more kind of holistic life. That's kind of rather my philosophical, personal meaning of the research.
Yeah, but you already gave some kind of answer to my question earlier, that because what you are doing is basically investigation of some form of information processing in natural organisms like fungi. And you said if we can understand language of
Yes.
fungi, so we can better understand all nature, as fungi are like intermediators in the discourse of all nature. Yeah, so I could see here very nice summary of your work.
Yes, basically, I want to say, like, if we consider the humanitarian level, the most problems in the world emerge because people don't understand each other. They couldn't talk properly, not because of the language difference, but because of the mentality. And if we understand language of nature and mushrooms, for example, then eventually everyone on the earth will be able to talk and understand each other. I would give an example like Francesco Zischi. He was monk, and he arrived in the city where a wolf was eating people and children, kidnapping children, eating them. And people of this town were unable to catch the wolf. And then Francesco Zischi, he told them, I will go and talk to the wolf. So he went to the forest, found this wolf and talked to him and explained that it's bad to kill people. And then a wolf promised to him that he will never kill anyone. And then peace restored in the city. And after that, this Francesco Zischi actually was named as Francesco Zischi and became saint. So maybe from my personal point of view, the goal of the life is the same, to talk to creatures and to understand them.
Thank you very much. Very, very nice view of your goals. Okay, so I'll thank you, and I'll ask Sunny to tell us about his view of where are you going, what are your dreams, and how you envision the direction which you pursue.
Yeah, so I have shared the screen. So I have 3 slides here. So I'd like to start with this slide, which may not be so interesting. As you may know, Springer publishes a journal called Natural Computing. And this is the introduction of the Journal of Natural Computing. And I think Rosenberg or the members of the editorial board wrote this introduction. So it says, natural computing refers to computation processes observed in nature and human-designed computing inspired by nature. When complex natural phenomena are analyzed in terms of natural processes, our understanding of both nature and the essence of computation is enhanced. Characteristic for human-designed computing inspired by nature is the metaphorical use of concepts, principles, and mechanisms underlying natural systems. So natural computing includes evolutionary algorithms, neural networks, molecular computing, and quantum computing. So this is the introduction of the journal.
Yes, but okay.
Yeah, but I think the idea of natural computing should be much broader. So I think it may encompass the entire computer science or informatics. So from my point of view, a study, so there are many studies in natural computing. And in general, a study in natural computing consists of the following steps. So we first observe natural phenomena from the point of computing. So there are various kinds of natural phenomena, including quantum, photonic, electrical, and molecular or biological. And the second step is to construct a computation model. So some kind of computation model based on the observation. And then this is quite computer scientific. So we analyze the computational model and obtain a new theory of computing. But this is not the final step. So then we try to re-implement the model by natural phenomena and investigate it further. So maybe for implementation, we may use other kinds of natural phenomena from the original phenomena from which the model was obtained. So by natural phenomena that are possibly different from the original. This is, and another direction, there is another direction. So we can obtain a new understanding of the natural phenomena by the theory. So this is more scientific. And this fourth step is more engineering. So a study in natural computing consists of these 4 steps. So maybe natural computing is informatics itself, or natural computing covers the entire study of entire area of informatics. And electrical computers also by natural phenomena. So ordinary computer science can also be considered as natural computing. So this natural phenomena means physical phenomena of electrons in electrical circuits. But by natural computing, we usually mean other kinds of studies. So the name unconventional computing is also used. So in unconventional computing, we focus on phenomena that are not observed in electrical circuits. So the computational models obtained from natural phenomena that are not electrical circuits, such computation models tend to be unconventional. And quantum computing is a typical example. So quantum computing has emerged from natural phenomena of quantum mechanics. And from the point of informatics, it is important that a single computation model, but there are multiple kinds of natural phenomena. So I think more multiple phenomena, then the computation model is more interesting. And finally, I want to say that so natural computing is not a field of study or field of science. It is a kind of attitude toward science or engineering. And in other words, I think natural computing is a mother of research fields in informatics. So, and quantum computing is, I think, a typical example. So quantum computing was born as a small branch of natural computing, but it has become established, and it is now a separate field in informatics. So in this sense, more and more research fields will be born from this activity of natural computing. So my conclusion is that natural computing is not a field of science or subfield of computer science or informatics, but it's a kind of activity, and it's a mother of research fields in informatics or computer science. So that's what I want to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It is very interesting and very important point, which shows that actually there are several points, but what was striking is that you were saying that we can learn from natural sciences about possible diverse forms of computing, but there's also the other way around. From the study of natural computing, we can learn about nature. That this opens new methods of natural science inquiry. And actually, I would say not only natural science, but it is also about biological or higher, like cultural, social aspects, where we are learning about, for instance, human societies, human collectives, or human individuals from what we learn about information processing. Yeah, so these are these two sides of interaction which are important. And one more striking thing which your view brought to me is there is a long tradition which actually is coming to Renaissance, from Renaissance, but it was amplified by some people like, for instance, Feynman, who said that the best way to understand something is to be able to build it. What we can build, we understand the best. So this could be like one of these things. So thank you very much for very interesting view on this matter. And then I will ask Gennaro to give your answer. Gennaro, please.
Okay. Of course, it is a not easy question, and I want only share my personal motivations. So remembering some items that Masami enumerated in her list, we can think about for example, the number of possibilities. Quantum computing, chemical reaction computers, DNA computers, collision computing, that is a very extensive subject in the field. And I remember others than mosaic tiling computers, that is close sometimes to the origami computers that I see sometimes this perspective. And anyway, in my short experience with several automata, my main motivation here is to understand how the information can be handled in the systems. Because for example, these biological models that Andy has commented with Fissaro and Bonfungi, they have tons of information that is very complicated to store in our hard disks, actually. So in this case, how the nature express the process, because actually one conjecture is that these processors are a concatenation of very small algorithms or Turing machines. So the juxtaposition of these machines will be increase the complexity of every natural process. However, it is difficult for me see how undecidable process in nature can be find a way to a computer, because maybe the logic that we use for computers is not expressed in the nature completely, and the language that will be up to the recursive language is not completely comprehensive for use. So indeed, many problems that exist in the universe of algorithms, then sometimes several of them algorithms are very complex than it's impossible to write or reach with the actual technology. However, when the quantum computers or chemical reaction computers becomes with more power, it is possible to see some of these very complex algorithms. However, I am not completely sure how the other level of natural algorithms that actually it is impossible to express in conventional way will be conceptualized for use the same logic or in other words, the quantum, really quantum algorithms. No? This is my opinion.
Yeah, it's also very interesting. And I think I would agree with you totally on this big issue of transcending what we have now, especially in theory of algorithm. Yeah, that it is related in some sense to Church-Turing thesis, which is actually not what was actual Church-Turing thesis, but how it is very often interpreted, not correctly, that this thesis is saying, oh, we cannot go farther. Yeah, that basically Turing model of computing, that's all what we can have, because Turing model computing can do a recursive process, and we know that every recursive process can be done by Turing machine. The problem is that we cannot say that the only way, the only process which can be used in information processing is this standard recursive process, that we have to go beyond it. And as you observed, it is like unknown how far we can go. I believe that we can go. I don't believe in this so-called physicalistic Church-Turing thesis that this is the end. I think that we can go farther, and there are some new developments which are showing that actually it is possible to go farther. So I think it is very good insight into the situation. And in this case, I'll ask Yasuhiro. Yasu, could you please present your view?
Okay, thank you. I would like to share this slide. I hope you can see.
Yeah, we can see.
My mission is merging nature by natural computing in terms of computing. So I'd like to merge everything by computing, not only human, not only natural things, human to nature to human, human to human, and nature, natural things. And that in order to that, my mission is change a kind of paradigm from logos to pathos. Yeah, as Professor Marcin introduced me, I have been involved computing with tactile. Why I'm interested in tactile? And the reason why is I want to switch the paradigm from logos to pathos. Pathos means emotion or sensitivity. So until now, we have well-developed system in logos, logics, and data. So I'd like to add another view from viewpoint of emotion or sensitivity. So emotion sensitivity media is tactile. So I am interested in tactile. And then, and I fully agree with everyone pointed out about natural computing. I think good point of natural computing is we can recreate almost the same phenomena by algorithm. Even if we don't know any theories, if we don't know any theories of chemicals and physics, we can create something. Yeah. So before another science reach to this point, we can create new things and we can recreate new things. So we can learn first compared to another science. So that is our kind of mandatory. We have to create something quite new. Another science cannot reach. So that is our mission, and that is my mission in natural computing. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much, Yasuhiro. It's interesting, but also I can see here a reflection of Japanese culture. Japanese culture traditionally is very strongly focused on sensitivity, on emotion. And there is a very long tradition of trying to investigate, not necessarily in theoretical way, but to find ways how to enrich sensitivity, how to organize sensitivity. This is one of my long-standing programs since I came from Japan, but I never had chance to implement it, is to find a way to translate this Japanese way of experiencing world, which has a lot of tradition of reflection on this, where the Western way of thinking, maybe it is impossible. But I think that what Yasuhiro is doing gives us chance to find this bridge between this very, very rich Japanese tradition of sensitivity with quite rational and precise language and way of thinking in the sense of some form of computing, natural computing. Now, so this is a fascinating direction of development. So thank you very much to all panelists for presenting your views. And I will do something which is terrible. I would like to ask Professor Kenichi Morita, would you be willing to say us maybe 3 sentences about your view of this? Professor Morita, when I asked him, was very modest and he declined talking about this. But could you tell us about your dream, how you see this? I know it's a terrible thing to what I did because you told me no, but I still try to push you in this.
Yeah. Thank you. I only say a few words on natural computing. This is a very personal view and maybe very paradoxically sounding, but I think also unnatural computing is also come from natural computing. Unnatural computing is included in natural computing because around the beginning of 20th century, quantum mechanics and Einstein's relativity theory appeared. From the viewpoint of classical physics, I think they are very unnatural thing, but they are observed by, they are created by observing natural natural phenomena. But at that time, these theories are very unnatural. Okay. Therefore, from like a step from conventional computing to unconventional computing, there is also a step from natural computing to unnatural computing. Such a very ingenious idea that cannot be found in nature also can be observed in nature, inspired by nature. Therefore, such a step will surely make natural computing forward. That's all.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm really sorry because I probably surprised you completely, but I received very interesting view that what we think is not natural can become natural at some point. Yeah. We can use not natural things to create something which will become part of nature, part of our environment.
Yeah.
Now, this is also a very important aspect of natural unconventional computing. Typically, something which is unconventional becomes at some point conventional, and later people think that it's impossible to imagine the world without something which before was considered new and sometimes unconventional and sometimes even dangerous. Yeah, so yeah, this is like gives us one more dimension in this discussion of directions of natural computing. So once again, thank you very much. And now I would like to open the floor to questions from the audience. Once again, if you want to ask questions, the best way is to raise your hand. Or Andy, please go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment that everything which happens in our brain is actually natural. Therefore, there is no such thing as unnatural computing, because if we write papers, we are natural creatures. Therefore, everything derived by our brain is natural. I would rather make difference between human agents and non-human agents. So we can talk about non-human computing. When we discover something in nature and then try to interpret as computation. Well, that's my point of view. That's what I want to say, basically. Yeah.
No, I just showed this when interactions you can choose, and I pushed hard. I love what you say, because this is something which for years I tried to introduce into discussion of, for instance, artificial intelligence, and all discussions about distinction between natural and artificial, where when in this discussion there's, oh, artificial, it is something which is created by humans. But then I asked, so this means that humans are not natural? Now, something which is creation of humans is natural. It would be if we think about possibility of something which is not natural create, then we go into the domain of ghosts or creatures which are aliens. So basically, this distinction is artificial, but of course, in some sense, it is just abbreviation. Yeah, that when we are talking about natural computing, it would be that we are stressing the need to look for natural phenomena which can be either used to facilitate computation, or which in some sense are already, like, and this research shows that some forms of information processing we can find in organisms which we wouldn't believe have capacity to have any form of cognition. I don't think that people would expect any difference between stone and, like, average person would see difference in this case between stone and mushroom. But it turns out that there's big difference. Yeah? So yeah, this is, your view is very, very interesting. And I subscribe to this view completely. Are there any other questions to panelists? Now, I know that this is very often after conference when I participate, after I leave this lecture hall when there was lecture or presentation, then hundreds of questions are coming to me, and it's, oh, why I didn't ask this or that question. This is the reason why, like, I have to, like, apologize sometimes that in conferences I try to ask questions first, because oh, I can see here Gordana. Please go ahead with your question.
Yes, thank you. It's not a question. It's just to say thank you so much. You express exactly what I'm thinking about, and I agree with all of you exactly as you say. Natural computing and the sciences are very closely connected, and the nature and we are also very closely connected. So we are learning about those connections and those mechanisms, how they are working in nature. So I'm wishing you all the best in your programs of developing natural computing even further. So thank you.
Any further questions? I don't see everyone, so if you have question or comment, you can unmute your mic and you can do it yourself if because I may not see who wants to ask questions. If nobody has questions, I would like to ask my question, which is very general. It's not to anyone particular, maybe not only to panelists, but I'm coming back to the issue of the future. So how you see the future? What, for instance, in this summit, there are conferences where there's a lot about issues like dangers of development of information technology, like negative influence. So it is not my view, but I would ask like devil's advocate question, is study of natural computing appropriate if we face possibility of abuse of this? Yeah, we can learn about nature. We can develop wonderful applications or hardware, but there is danger of that someone can abuse it. The classical dramatic question is about the responsibility of, for instance, physicists who are involved in creation of an atomic bomb. Yeah, explosions in Hiroshima and Nagasaki created terrible suffering for people. And then right now, when we are discussing use of natural computing, and it came out at some point that we are going in the direction of understanding of consciousness, of cognition. And then there is this risk, okay, maybe it's better not to dig into this knowledge because someone can use it against us. What do you think about this?
So my response, my response is, natural computing aims to understand nature in more detail or deeper and deeper. So, and as I said, it also has an engineering aspect. So we want to construct systems in nature that can be controlled well, because those systems are based on our computational models. So I think if we study in the direction of natural computing, then we can gain more understanding of nature, and we can gain more engineering methods to control nature and also systems built in nature. So in that way, I think, we can avoid such accidental directions, and we can adjust the evolution of science and technology in a way more fruitful for human beings. So it may be somewhat quite boring answer, but I think it's one of the direction. Yeah,
I agree that it is saying that ignorance is blessing is confusing, because the fact that we don't know some answers will not help to prevent these dramatic consequences. Like my own answer, I don't see raised hands, so I use this opportunity to express my view is that what is important is to combine knowledge of particular issues, for instance, within natural computing, with more broader knowledge to connect human or societal understanding with understanding of processes in nature. What is wrong, I think, is not that we learn things, but that we learn and we don't look outside. That we have narrow view of the issue, and in this case, very often people are not aware of consequences. If we know what kind of negative consequences could be for the society, for people, for democracy, then we can prevent use of these consequences. But it will be not that we just try not to learn. Okay, I could see Gennaro has. Gennaro, do you want to?
Yes, remembering some words from Kenichi and Andy. This situation with unconventional computing or natural computing looks as a natural evolution of computing, because as Andy commented, when you have an interpretation of the brain, it is only exactly an interpretation, because we know only parts of the function of the brain, but not completely the full control of these organisms. In this direction, the natural computing looks as a natural evolution of the history of computation, because, for example, in physics, several years ago, you can see how the classic mechanics has the solution for several physics problems. But now the quantum mechanics was necessary to change several concepts about of the physical phenomena. In this direction, natural computing looked than evolution, a natural evolution of the computation, the conventional computation, and as Marcin say, this small natural phenomenon, of course, we try to understand step by step how it works everyone, and the technology play a fundamental advance, because actually we have several physical mechanisms to study the natural phenomena, and we can try to understand what is the basic rules to try to understand what is happening in this process. The other reflection is that the evolution in computation looks more fast than others previous theories, because if we compare the advance in physics that takes many decades to evolution to change the classic mechanics to quantum mechanics, the evolution and computing history is very short, because we have only 90 years evolving the knowledge of computing that is very fast with respect to the others. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is anyone? I'm just looking because, as I said, I have only, I can see on the couple. Oh, Andy, please.
Well, I just wanted also kind of to echo previous kind of people to say that the question where are we going and why we are doing this actually can be asked the same as what's the purpose of our life. And if we go into philosophical purpose of life, actually life is meaningless, because the only purpose of any creature is a reproduction. As soon as we reproduce, we are not necessary for nature, basically. And then the rest of our lives is actually waiting to die. And because death is kind of scary, we try to fill our existence with some fictitious purpose. We need purpose to live, because we know that the only thing which waits for us is a death. And then we invent books, we do experiments, we invent theories, just to fill our day with something, not just to sit and wait to die. It's a kind of rather philosophical in the long perspective response.
Well, thank you. It's a little bit pessimistic.
It's not pessimistic. I just try to be realistic, you know.
In some sense, I agree, but only in some sense. Like from my perspective, I'm not young, and I can see that right now. I don't want to waste time. I can see how limited time is ahead of me. And before, when I was younger, I was thinking, oh, I can do this, but later, not now. Right now, I know it will be either now or never. So whatever, when I was younger, I spent lots of time reading literature on any problem I was interested in solving. Right now, I don't wait for this. I'm doing, if my paper is rejected because somebody did it before, okay, peer review is for this purpose, then forget. Typically, I can always, even if something was done before, I can add something sufficiently valuable that I can add later some kind of introduction that somebody did this and I'm doing this. So here is, in this sense, I would add to end this comment, it is carpe diem. Use the day, and but use the day, not waste it. So use the day to do research, to learn more, and that's all. No, we are not immortal, although I thought maybe Andy can transform, like clone me as a fungus, and then I can live thousands of years, but I'm not sure if I'll be able as a fungus to continue my research, but we'll see. Anyway, since I don't, General, it is your hand is up because you want to add something, or you just forgot to unmute?
I have a question for Andy.
Okay.
Following your assumption, so what is the purpose of fungi in the life?
The only purpose is to self-reproduce and to spread their genes, because actually, as by Hawking's book about selfish gene, actually, it just genes molecules which wants to reproduce basically and to spread. And we are just basically shells which like transfer them. So yes, the only purpose is just to reproduce, as for all living creatures. There is no other purpose of life.
But isn't it the publication of results some kind of reproduction?
Yes, it's true, it's true. You're absolutely right. We are trying, because we are afraid to die, we're trying to immortalize ourselves as scientists in the papers and books. And then kind of, yes, we hope to stay immortal, but...
So there is hope.
There is a hope, but you know, a majority of scientists will stop being cited about five years after they die. If any scientist is cited about 25 years after death, she or he considered to be a successful scientist. If 50, genius, basically. So yes, maybe we can prolong our lives for 5 years by like publishing papers and all this stuff, like in average, yeah, maybe a bit more.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I don't see any raised hands. So thank you very much. First, thank you invited lecturers for their invited lectures. Thank you to them and to panelists for participation in the panel discussion and very interesting contributions. Thank you to everyone who participated in this ask questions. And one more thing is, this will continue. Right now, we are approaching full hour and 30 minutes. Again, I don't say what hour, not to confuse anyone, but within 30 minutes, we'll start contributed papers. And this will go, there are 10 contributed papers, and we'll be finishing 12:30 UTC. 12:30 UTC, depends on where you are. You'll see what is the end of IWNC part. But please remember that there are other conferences. So for instance, block 2, which starts in 13 hours of UTC, will be programming, philosophy and computing, organized by Peter Boltich, with several interesting lectures, discussions. And there are, of course, other conferences. So please look at the program of remaining program. We already are in our 6th day of the summit, and there is day 6, 7, and 8. So please look at this, and maybe you'll find something interesting, not only in our 13th International Workshop on Natural Computing, but also in other conferences. Once again, thank you very much to everyone. And we'll have this 30-minute break, and we'll, at the same link, we'll continue contributing presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Sorry, Gennaro, for you it is very late hour. So sorry that our schedule, but there was no way to avoid that.
Don't worry. It is similar of a night party. Okay.
Thank
so
you.
Very nice to see you again, and many colleagues and very nice friends in this meeting.
Yeah, thank you.
Michi, Andy, Katsunobu. Very nice to see you again.
Yeah, so this is this good side of transformation into conferences which are online. In some sense, I hate it because you don't have personal contact as usually, but at least you have contact. So this is something which is wonderful. And in this summit, several people were saying, I've been to several times more conferences in last year than usually. Because right now I cannot travel, but conferences are organized online. So this is the good side, but of course there are also bad sides. I really prefer talking face to face, not screen to screen.
I prefer the sushi, of course.
Yeah, this is an additional thing that.
Tikka masala, the curry.
Yeah.
It's very delicious in Japan. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so I would understand if you decide to leave us and you will not come to continue the papers, but if you still manage to be awake, please feel invited to other presentations in this conference.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Bye. Goodbye.
Bye-bye. Good night.
Good night.